Today I'm going to be making some dried lamb over the wood stove. You might call it lamb jerky. It's a very old way of preserving meat for long periods of time. I have some lamb shoulder here that we got from my wife's uncle, and I trimmed most of the fat off already. The fat will never dry, so try to eliminate as much as you can, or just eat those pieces first with the fat on it. So I'm going to start cutting this as thin as possible. The thinner you cut it, the quicker it'll dry, and I actually prefer cutting it when it's cold. It cuts a lot better. I find lamb quite gamey sometimes. So this roast here, I soaked it in sour cream and some vinegar. The reason why I use sour cream is we barely had any milk. But you can also use milk. It'll help get rid of some of that gameiness. But you never want to marinate your meat in oil. I did that by mistake one time. I bought a store-bought marinade pack that was oil-based, and your meat will never dry properly. But if you do marinate your meat, I try not to add too many different ingredients. Just too many flavors going on at once. I try to keep it down to about 4 flavors. And this is my drying rack. It sits about 18 inches above my wood stove. We're essentially dehydrating this meat. We're not cooking it. Just over a low, slow heat from the wood stove. It's going to dry. We're going to put the thicker pieces closer to the stove and the thinner pieces further away. We will have to flip and rotate them eventually. You can add seasoning to your marinade. I'm just going to sprinkle some of this on right now. And the seasoning is just for taste. It has nothing to do with preserving the meat. The wood stove doesn't need to be blazing. Just a nice gentle heat. Putting all the thicker pieces and bigger pieces closer to the wood stove to help them dry out quicker. My mom used to make this in the oven, just on some cooling racks on a baking sheet at 200 degrees Fahrenheit for about 6 hours, sometimes 8. That's a big piece right there. The reason why I chose lamb is that's what we had. But some of these pieces, you just can't help but have fat on them. This lamb meat is all spread out now. I forgot to mention that these racks, I scrubbed them with soap and water and then sprayed them down with vinegar and lime juice just to make sure they're nice and clean. Wood stove is going. And these just need a lot of time. Well, this meat has been drying for about 7 hours. It's been flipped and rotated several times. I think it's as dry as it's going to get. And this particular cut of meat had a lot of fat in it, which will give it lots of flavor, but it also reduces the shelf life as well. So if you're looking to make beef jerky to preserve it for a long period of time, you have to use a lean cut of meat. A couple of these pieces here that have a lot of fat on it actually dripped on my wood stove. You might have noticed that this pile of meat is a lot smaller than it was when I started. That's because all these small pieces, I've been snacking on it as I've been going. Probably by tomorrow afternoon, this will all be gone.